This year I graduated as the top student on my university course. That means I got a minimum of 70% on all of my tests. Alongside that, I was also running my YouTube channel in which I made over 80 videos in 1 year. I also worked part-time as a teacher and served on the committee of one of the biggest sports societies on campus. I did all of that and I made it look easy. And I know that sounds like bragging, but I'm only mentioning this because a few years ago, I was an incredibly mediocre student. I'd never had any type of academic success before. And honestly, I was just average at best. I remember that painful feeling of receiving a test back and getting a bad grade. And I would try to act like I didn't care or I was too cool to study. But it was actually devastating because the night before I'd actually studied very hard for this test. And I didn't want to look like a failure to my classmates. But that's how I felt. I felt like a complete failure. Like no matter how much effort I put in, I was never going to be one of these high-performing students who got the top grades. And when I was headed for university, it felt like I was destined for the same thing. That I was going to be another one of these grads with a mediocre set of grades and a mountain of debt that I'd be paying off until I was 40. But with that much on the line, I had to do something about it. After scouring the internet for days, looking for all the productivity advice and study tips I could find, I developed a system that allowed me to go from being painfully mediocre to one of the highest performing students in the entire year. And you're probably wondering how I did that. Surely I had to sacrifice a lot of things to achieve that result. Actually, I didn't. I didn't give up partying or drinking or any hobby for that matter. I wasn't in the library studying 24/7 either. I wasn't even working much more than the average student. And I know that literally sounds too good to be true, but I promise it's not, as you're going to find out in today's video. I'm going to be giving my entire productivity system away for free. And all I ask in return is that you scroll down right now, press the like button, and if you enjoy this video, please consider subscribing. It really helps me and it allows me to keep bringing free value to you. So here are the secrets that the straight A students don't want you to know. So I originally heard about this first secret from Cal Newport, who's kind of the CEO of productivity. And this comes from his book, Deep Work, which is honestly a life-changing book. It's like the Bible for learning how to properly focus and reclaim your attention, just get more work done. No word of a lie, this literally doubled my productivity and output. And still, so many people will just ignore this advice because it requires them to have a basic level of self-control and discipline, which, let's be real, not many people have these days, even though it's going to save them so much time and effort in the long run. So waking up early isn't exactly a new concept, but not many people think of just sliding out of bed and getting straight onto work first thing in the morning. And the idea behind this is that in the day, we have so many distractions that could be avoided. Things like checking your texts or your emails, people trying to get your attention, to get you to do all these little random jobs in the day which don't really mean anything. And what most people don't realize is all these thoughts are causing us mental strain. They're occupying space in our mind and it's preventing us from getting good work and focus done. And really the only time you don't have to worry about any of this is first thing in the morning. Think about it. If you wake up at 6 o'clock, no one's going to be hitting you up, nobody's going to be pestering you to do these random jobs. Your mind is as clear as it's going to be all day and you'll be able to devote your full focus to just getting some quality work done. Deep Work says that the average person has about 3 to 4 hours of intense focus in them a day. And during that period, we can get a lot done just within a short time. Just by working 6 a.m. through 10 a.m. every single day, I literally surpassed every single person on my course within no time. I was finishing assignments before my classmates had even touched them. And getting into this consistent work habit means that you don't actually spend that much time working. You just do a few very focused hours a day, and then you get to take your foot off the pedal a little bit. You get to relax as the day goes on. As I said, I wouldn't study much more than the average person, but I had just as much free time and 10 times better grades, honestly. So I can hear a few people saying, I'm not going to be able to wake up that early. I mean, the obvious solution here is to just go to bed a bit earlier, but I'm not going to leave it at that because that's an oversimplification of the problem. So there are probably a few different reasons why you can't go to bed early. A lot of people in our generation just go on technology before they go to bed. They like to scroll on their phone or watch an episode of Netflix. And then if you're university age, you might be outgoing. You might be going to parties and stuff or clubs. Those are guaranteed late nights. And unlike these other YouTubers who believe that to be this fucking Goggins level productive person, you have to give up all of your fun, leisurely activities in life. I'm not going to tell you that. Like honestly, if I believe I've done enough work that day, and I have pretty high standards for work, bear in mind, so I'm not just going to let myself slack off. I think I've earned to go and chill and have a drink with my friends for a little bit. And sometimes I might even get a bad night night's sleep because of that. But unlike other people who are just not high performers, I don't let these things control me. I'll enjoy myself, but I'll take full responsibility for the consequences of those actions. That's what we need more of in this world. We just need accountability. Like, I'll recognize that my productivity might take a hit because of a bad night's sleep, but I'm still going to be up at the same time working regardless of that. Going out and having fun is fine. Not many people will tell you that, but there are some times where it is going to be in your best interest to get an early night's sleep. And that's when you might have to be a bit disciplined, resort to willpower, try not to go to bed late. But for the most part, as long as you're maintaining that consistent daily work habit, you can get away with a lot of things. You can be quite lenient with yourself. You don't have to give up on all these hobbies and the fun stuff. Just use your better judgment. So the second secret is to keep a full schedule. So in the intro, I told you about how I was balancing all the different facets of my university life. I was running a YouTube channel full time basically, I was working a part-time job, and I was maintaining a pretty healthy social life. This kind of comes into what I'm about to tell you. Listen, I know so many people who didn't take advantage of the university experience. They didn't take advantage of everything that it had to offer, everything that they were paying for. Like, I just don't get this, it's so stupid. They didn't look to join any societies. They didn't take part in sports. They didn't go out and socialize and try to meet people. They just wasted the opportunity. And the reason they gave is because they were focusing on work. But what motherfuckers don't realize is you can literally still do those things. I still did every single one of those things that I listed and got better grades than the majority of people. At university, I was like the most busy guy on earth. I've probably had more things going on in my daily routine than the majority of people, and I still got everything done. This is something that I call the busyness paradox, and it's actually really interesting, so listen up. What I found is those guys who kept a very clear, empty schedule, lots of time on their hands, they usually ended up very undisciplined, waking up very late in the day, procrastinating a lot, but they think, oh, I've got so much more time to finish this assignment. But by the time, say, the week before the deadline rolls around, and then they get in a state of panic and they end up submitting a rushed piece of inferior work. Whereas in my experience as someone who kept a very busy schedule, an insanely busy schedule, almost too many things to do in one day. Like a typical day for me might have been having class in the morning and then doing a few hours work on whatever university assignment I had. Then in the afternoon, I might be working on my YouTube, doing the scripting, the filming, the editing, making the thumbnail. Then I'd be going to the gym and doing MMA training. Like, as I said, it almost sounds like too many things to do in one day. But because that was the case, it was like I created this sense of pressure for myself that caused me to work harder and then get everything done. And a lot of people might be hearing that and think, just sounds too stressful for me. Stress is negative for your health. But for that, I have a pretty good counter argument. I like to think about it this way. If you have no stress in your life, like zero stress, you're probably not someone who gets a lot of work done. Stress is actually a great motivator. It makes you conscious of time. It makes you feel like fucking clock is ticking down every second. I have to work hard now, otherwise I'm risking getting behind on this next thing. Whereas those guys who believe they have all the time in the world on their hands, they usually don't get very much work done at all. And we also have to keep in mind that there's different types of stress. There's short-term stress and there's long-term stress. Short-term stress is where you kind of feel a bit bad in the moment. You feel very overwhelmed, like there's almost too much to cope with. But it's ultimately something you have control over. Like, the best way to make the stress disappear is to just do the bloody work. But long-term stress is way more detrimental, not just to your mental health, but to your physical health. People can actually get sick from being too stressed. And long-term stress usually results from problems that are a bit more complicated to solve. But what I think is that a lot of long-term stress factors are kind of like a combination of short-term stress factors. They've just kind of been left to themselves. You've ignored the problem and it's built up into this big, like, unsolvable problem. So if I were to just ignore my university assignments for a whole semester, I'm getting out of the short-term stress, but the long-term stress is compounding, and eventually I'll reach this point of no return where the problem just becomes exponentially bigger to the point I can't solve it. And these huge dilemmas are usually avoidable if you're just willing to put yourself through that short-term stress. And also remember, when I talk about busyness, I don't strictly mean doing work. I also mean doing fun activities like going to events and seeing friends. I don't rate these monk mode guys who think friends are just a total detriment to you. They're like a waste of your energy and there's nothing productive from hanging out with friends. For me, hanging out with a friend, laughing, just not taking myself too seriously for a couple of hours, that's one of the best ways to de-stress. And the third secret is to have some self-belief. So some people are probably a bit pissed off that I'm ending on kind of a cheesy note. I'm giving you kind of like a cliche piece of advice, which is to believe in yourself more. Like, how the fuck is that gonna get me better grades? But take it from someone who's achieved a lot of academic success in a very short period of time. But bear in mind, before that, like 2 or 3 years ago, I was such a painfully average student. The main difference between me then and me now, that right now I believe in myself. There's a lot of people in this world, especially people our age, who believe that they're not naturally talented, not naturally intelligent, that they're not capable of achieving the top grades because for whatever reason God did not bestow upon them great wisdom and intelligence. Hopefully you have the self-awareness to know that those things are just complete bullshit. They're just self-limiting beliefs that you're imposing upon yourself. But if you did believe that, it's not even your fault. It's the fault of a failed education system with teachers who have no passion, who don't really know how to teach, who don't know how to inspire a kid to want to become the best at something. And sometimes you have to live with the consequences of that for your whole life. It's such a fucked up thing, but at least if we're aware of the problem, we can deal with it. But the one thing I can guarantee is that if you don't believe you can do it, then you won't do it. And this is the main reason I buried all of my competition at uni. Most of them are stuck in this fixed, self-limiting belief mindset that they are not naturally intelligent, that they are not capable of achieving the top grades, that they didn't even deserve them. It's kind of like this inferiority complex. They just don't think they're good enough. And what I'm about to say is something that you're not going to hear on YouTube or anywhere really. You're not really going to hear anyone say this because our society is so PC right now. We're kind of afraid of showing our competitive side. We all just want to be nice and not really say what we really think. None of these nerds will tell you what they really think, but I'm going to tell you what the mindset of a high performer is really like. The reason these high performers get the best grades is because they believe they deserve it more than other people. They almost believe that they're a little bit better than the rest of us. Like for me, in my mind, I would never allow myself to get a bad grade because in my mind, I'm the top student. I'm the top student on the entire course. Fuck if I'm gonna let someone do better than me. And some people might call that a bit insecure of me. Some people might say that's flat out delusion. But this is the thing that got me results. The high performers perceive themselves to be the best of the best. They literally think they deserve everything and more. Whereas the low performers, as I said, they have an inferiority complex. They don't even believe that they deserve the good grades. So really the key to getting those high grades is to change your self-image from that of a low achiever to a high performer. And that way it will come out in your behaviors. You'll start acting like the way you see yourself. But obviously for someone who's not achieved a lot of academic success in their lives, that's easier said than done. You're not just going to perceive yourself as a high performer with that kind of history until you have proof in front of you. Think about it this way. If I've been scoring just straight Fs on all of my assignments for the past year, obviously I'm going to feel like a bit of a loser. Obviously my confidence isn't going to be very high. And there's the proof right in front of me. Everyone can see it on my paper. I'm a fucking loser. I get Fs. But if I was to suddenly score A after A after A, I'm not really going to feel like a loser anymore, am I? I'm going to start to feel like a bit of a boss. Like I am actually worthy of getting these high grades, that I'm a high performer. Like maybe like 1A, that could be a fluke, but multiple A's, that's enough to change your self-image. And that creates a positive feedback loop where this initial success that you've experienced is going to drive you to keep doing well because you want to meet that new expectation of yourself. And really that's all you need. You just need to rack up some academic wins. And obviously some of you might be thinking, but I struggle to even pass the exam. I can't even do the bare minimum at the moment. Trust me, I was in that exact position. I told you when I started uni, I wanted to make a change. I wanted to become a high performer, but I didn't have any history getting good grades. I was very lacking in confidence and I had quite a bad self-image. So in my mind, it seemed like the furthest thing away. So when this very first assignment came up, it was to design and code a website in full. And this is one of the most challenging university assignments I ever undertook. I literally poured my heart and soul into this. I worked so fucking hard. I found it extremely challenging. And a big part of the challenge wasn't the complexity of the work itself. It was just the uncertainty of the whole situation. Was all this hard work actually gonna pay me any kind of benefit? Was it all gonna be for nothing? Would I just get another flop grade? But when I got my grade back, I was in disbelief. I came top of the class and I couldn't believe it honestly. I thought my website was complete shit. But I needed that win to show me what I was really capable of. After that, all the assignments got easier because I knew the type of potential I had. I knew that I could be a high performer. And with each assignment passing where I continued to get the high grades, I was building up this undeniable stack of proof that I am who I say I am. That's how you really change your self-image. Not through talking affirmations into a mirror, not through manifestation, but through experience. That's all from me. If you enjoyed, don't forget to scroll down, hit the subscribe button, turn on post notifications. It's a win-win for both of us. Stay sharp, stay ahead. I'm out.